Power, the active ingredient in boxing. You don't need it to have a rich, storied career or to make a lot of money, but when it's not there, the absence is felt.
And Julian Jackson, a young man who often fights as if he's double parked.
You pack a fair old dick, Julian.
Tim Harris is in more trouble than a tightrope walker in a windstorm.
But I believe that whenever I hit my opponent in the right places, he cannot stay up.
Watch the reaction on the face now when Jackson hits him in the body. Oh!
If our monitor is just flickering on and off, but we're looking at this powerful hook. Ron, this is what you call the dance of unconsciousness, my man.
Yes, I did.
Miss Son, let me tell you about the Jackson, man. He's got so much power in both of his hands. That's the heart. Julian Jackson, the heart. Julian Jackson, the heart. Julian Jackson, the heart. Heart.
Basically, power is just given to you from the Creator. But you learn through boxing form and technique that shows you how to deliver the power.
If you go to the internet and you search for sitting on your punches, you're gonna find a lot of things, but Julian Jackson is a good example. He's always kind of sitting in a low, deep, crouched stance, more squatted like a wrestler than a boxer, if you've ever looked at that. He'll do it on defense too. He's so close to the ground, might as well sit under a punch. Whether he's boxing or not, he's very knee focused. And to maintain this low stance, you can see that he has a gingerly step to him. And the reasoning is that the lower he can get to the ground, the higher he can spring up with power from his punches that he might not have otherwise.
Here he comes. Julian Jackson, the heart. Julian Jackson, the heart, with an everlasting heart. He always hits the mark. That's the heart. He's the dedicated man who always be number one. That's the heart.
So how do you go from that scary footage to this? I think this is an important part. This is called the stop, and you gotta be very skilled to pull this off. And the stop's useful on its own, but he can use it to set up this stiff arm, he can use it to frame an uppercut with the other hand, and he can use it to head start a clinch. It's very versatile. He'll do other things too, like building this little arc into his jab over Julian's shoulder or his glove, like this, just to stop him from jabbing. It's a good underhanded, sneaky way to keep the distance between you and the other guy as uncomfortable as you can. And this fight's short, but I wanted to show you another way that a versatile left hand could be trouble, because it lets someone who can move well, like Mike McCallum, jab and move away while it's in your face. You never know where he really is. Sometimes it takes a collection of smart, smooth, veteran, sneaky skills like this to win a fight.
Francisco de Jesus.
Francisco manipulates the distance here too, but in a more easy to spot way, moving, jabbing, and clinching. But there's a problem with moving too much and opening too wide.
No, water up.
Too much dedication to moving side to side will leave you open up the middle for a really straight jab, and Julian gets him here. And this is bad, but it's not as bad as this. The right hand to the body. This is recurring, you'll see it a lot. The right hand to the body is so worrisome that Francisco tries to block it. But Julian has a history of going behind those blocking elbows, maybe making things worse.
Water, please. Water up.
And while it works as a jab counter, it also keeps their focus on protecting their body instead of their head. So it's easy to go from the body to the head.
Jackson able to absorb it. Body shot that time. Let's see how right body shot is. Watch the
The body punch is damaging enough without running into it, so this whole side, his left side, cannot be moved to.
It's towards the liver area down there.
So if he has to circle away from the right hand, but he moves too fast and gets jabbed up the middle, Francisco has to try something else, and that is, he gets low. This is a good position for headbutting. Julian knows better than anyone, and it's also the same position you use to throw the right hand over the top. This counters Julian's jab, so he stops throwing it, and his trainer doesn't like that.
Step in with the jab. Don't walk in. Get his head up with the jab, Julian. You get his head with the jab up. You have to step in with the jab. If you hurt him with the jab, you keep his head up. Water up.
If you have a style focused on getting low, your natural predator is the uppercut. And the worst part is that you can't just stay down, you have to get back up, and a smart boxer can time that.
And watch for it again, the left hook. Bam, there it is. Jackson, the reigning WBA junior middleweight champion. All right, you see the time remaining in this, the 8th round. Again, that uppercut has caused Jackson some trouble on that. Just as I say that, the right hand catches.
Julian Jackson, Terry Norris is coming to get you.
This knockout, you've seen these mechanics, going to the body, then going to the head, circling into the punch, but Terry Norris has something going for him. Julian sits so low in his stance that it can pay to pick his head up, out of its comfort zone. This stops him from getting low enough to get the kind of leverage he needs to throw his heavy punches. And Julian knows about this too, he's not stupid.
Very easy to sit down here, call a fight, describe a fight, criticize a fighter, tell you what he should be doing, what he shouldn't be doing, but when you're in the ring, it's a whole different ballgame.
Bob, I know.
Terry Norris combos off this a few times, proving it's a hole in Julian's defense he needs to look out for. The setup to the knockout is the right hand to the body again. Because he's countering up under the jab, Terry Norris tries to block it, and Julian goes upstairs. So what's next for Julian? Does he beat the next guy who's more skilled, who's probably winning the fight?
How about if we find out?
Oh, definitely.
Julian's always had good timing, and we've seen him go under the left hand, but he's more likely to go over the top. Most people are. This kind of counter meshes with his style because it lets him bounce up out of his stance like he wants to do anyway. It can knock people out, it can hurt them, it can scare them from jabbing. It's a terror. But say you're Julian Jackson, and you're right-handed, and you're shaped like a 3. Against another right-hander like you can get close enough to almost kiss. Against a left-hander, your right hand is going to have more space to travel. And Herol Graham has seen other Julian Jackson fights, and he knows to keep Julian up out of a stance and to move backwards occasionally. Julian Jackson's solution is sometimes to not care. He knows what makes him special. And you can see him land that counter still by turning left-handed himself, taking away that space so he could land that punch like he could on someone right-handed.
Using every inch. Oh, what a punch!
Oh man, it's gonna be action from the round 1, you know, and Herol Graham will definitely be on the bike. I know that.
He hasn't got on his bike. He hasn't been running around the ring, keeping out of trouble. He's been standing right in front of Jackson.
Oh, definitely. I know he was very, very confident. He felt that he had everything in control, but I knew what I had to do. I was timing him while I was going back in the corner, and I kept my eyes on him until he made that drop to throw his left hook to deliver his punch, and he was open, and I threw the right hook and caught him flush on the chin.
You turned the fight upside down, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
The Hawk Jackson making his third title defense and shooting for his third consecutive first-round knockout. He's told us he thinks he has the ability to outpoint Julian Jackson. Come on.
Well, he ain't going to be around to hear the points if he keeps taking those right hands.
I like Thomas Tate. I like how he handled the decision. Julian uses that same counter here, but I like that he uses his jab too. Julian tries to go left-handed again, but it's good to keep a move like that to a minimum because there's a moment where you switch stances where you're just standing, unbalanced, and I like that Tate knows to take advantage of that. Julian shows off his timing by knocking Tate's head when it bobs towards him. Tate goes below the belt on the side where the referee can't see him, and he does test the belt line a few times, which isn't good, but it's smart. I like that he takes a knee even though he says he's not hurt. I like that he makes this face when he gets up. I like how he stiff arms Julian and escapes around the side until Julian stops him. I like when they punched and their fists hit each other.
Those punches bent midair. Well, let's go right into the ring announcer, Chuck Hall. That was just for sure. That sure was.
And we talked about Julian's big weakness being jabbed up out of his stance, but we haven't talked about the danger of being hit in one spot for his whole career. Other fighters with a head down style get cut easy, and Julian's no exception.
Jackson needed eye surgery to repair both retinas. Even though he had successfully recovered from the operation, the WBC was reluctant to sanction Jackson in the ring.
The problem career-wise is Julian wants to stay in range to counterpunch, but that's where he's in trouble of losing his vision because he fights with a style that's forehead first. So when someone tries to touch his forehead, he won't move back because he can't counter from there. He will move his head to the side. It saves his eyes, and it keeps him in range to counterpunch. And it works until this. A jab to get your head off center, then a hook where he put it. The next fight's McClellan, and you'll see it there too. Any fighter can be trapped, their defense being exploited against themselves, but when your style depends on a certain stance to explode up into a big punch like Julian does, having an established system of not allowing you to do that is the worst thing that could happen. Let's look at Julian's favorite move where he do-si-dos someone into his hand. If you notice, McClellan has a lot of that same lankiness that McCallum had, and he can use it the same way, up close where this move works, or far away. But I think my favorite thing about Jackson is in the finishing sequence where you can see him trying to pull off this spin move every time his head goes to the left here. He knows what makes him good and he's gonna keep trying.
Never try it again with McClellan because that's going to be the same result over and over again.
I give to boxing the greatest fights. The people wanted to see Julian Jackson, and I've given them 100%. I've given to boxing 110%. And I don't think that I've received, my due recollection, what I think I deserve from the promoters, especially the fans who were there.
To say thanks to my Lord and Jesus, my Savior Jesus Christ. I dedicate this one to him, and I also just like to thank Dan King. I'd like to thank Dan King for this opportunity again. I appreciate Dan King production and for all that they've done for me.
No mob ties whatsoever.
He was arrested more than 30 times between 1951 and 1966 on charges ranging from gambling to assault. And more than 20 fighters have taken King to court.
They have castigated me. They have burned me on the oil.
Donald King stomped a man to death in 1966.
Julian Jackson is dying to talk to us.
If they that wait upon the Lord, he shall renew their strength, and he have renewed my strength. God bless each and every one, and stay faithful to Jesus.
Straight bombs from Julian Jackson.
With an everlasting smile, he always hits the mark. That's the heart.